Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
We're going to talk about this in some detail. Let's show our viewers the Guardian newspaper. Second Brexit referendum key to deal, says Keir Starmer, the shadow Brexit secretary. I'm going to talk to Andrew Adonis for a while. Just a few questions before I open it up to everybody else. Do you agree with Keir Starmer that there are about 150 MPs or so on the Labour side that would not agree to any Brexit deal unless it includes a second referendum?
I entirely agree. And indeed, I think that underestimates the number, because on the 1st of April, more than 200 Labour MPs voted for there to be a referendum on any Brexit deal with an option to remain, any Brexit deal. So I think it's unsustainable for there to be an agreement.
So you don't think there are any circumstances, right, so there are no circumstances at all in which Labour would assist the Conservatives in delivering Brexit or a Brexit deal without a second referendum?
Well, I was simply saying what I think the majority of Labour MPs, what their view would be. And I think the great majority of Labour MPs would not agree to any Brexit deal without there being a referendum with an option to remain. It's very clear now that you couldn't conceivably hold a referendum where the only choice is the least popular things in the country, which are different forms of Brexit.
So you would categorise the Labour Party as the party of a second referendum, Remain and Reform, says Tom Watson.
I completely agree with Tom. I think Tom is speaking for the Labour
Party.
And
you see the fundamental dishonesty there.
Well, hang on.
At the 2017 election, all those Labour MPs were returned to Parliament on the basis of a clear manifesto promise that they would respect the result. Now, in fairness, the SNP, the Greens, the Lib Dems, they all said they were going to overturn it. They all lost votes in consequence. But Labour told an outright lie. They said we will respect the referendum result, and they now turns out they had their fingers crossed behind their backs.
Hang on a second, Andrew. Hang on. You've made it very clear, and Dan obviously disagrees. You've made it very clear that in your mind, Labour is the party of a second referendum and Remain. In fact, you went even further last year on LBC. Let's just have a listen.
If you're a Brexiter, I hope you won't vote for the Labour Party, because the Labour Party is moving increasingly against Brexit.
30 to 40% of Labour Party voters support Brexit.
But well, by definition, therefore, the majority are against Brexit. If one does the maths on that.
So why would any Labour Leave voter support you when you say you are fully committed to a second referendum and Remain?
If we have a referendum, everyone who voted Leave or Remain 3 years ago gets their say. So I hope that Leavers and Remainers will vote Labour in the European elections, because it's the only way that they will get their own say.
Why would they not vote for the Brexit Party? I mean, Andrew Adonis, why would anybody who wants to vote Leave and who wants the UK to leave in the way that they said they were promised, and they said clearly in that referendum, why would they vote for Labour? You've just said we're the party of Remain and a second referendum.
The Brexit Party isn't offering people a say at all. The Brexit Party just wants an impossible position, which is a no-deal Brexit, to be adopted, even though there are virtually no votes in Parliament for it.
But you've told Labour Leave voters not to bother voting for the Labour Party. You've told anybody who wants to leave, who's a Brexiter, not to vote for the Labour Party. You've said you're the party of Remain and a second referendum. Why would anybody who wants to leave the EU vote for Labour?
I've answered that question very clearly. If there's a referendum, then people who voted Leave and Remain. They do. The great majority of people do want a referendum. That's very clear from the polling. And if there's a referendum, people who voted Leave and Remain both get their say, and they get an equal say. And those who want a no-deal Brexit, which is what the Brexit Party is campaigning for at the moment, the only way it's going to be possible to get that is through a referendum, because there's no way that the current House of Commons
would vote for that. Is Labour, though, in favour of a second referendum in the way that you have stated? I mean, you've made it pretty categorical. I've looked at your leaflet in the European elections and your manifesto. I really struggled to find any mention of a second referendum. There's one mention of a public vote in here.
It's the key mention, which is that on any deal from this government. But what Keir was saying in The Guardian this morning, which you asked me about earlier, what Keir was saying is that he finds it inconceivable that there could be an agreement with the government.
But that's what Keir Starmer said.
Between the parties, which didn't have a referendum.
Let's just see what Labour's actually saying. You're saying one thing. Let's have a look at the European manifesto from the Labour Party. Labour will continue to oppose the government's bad deal or a disastrous no deal. And if we can't get agreement along the lines of our alternative plan or a general election, so if they do get agreement, they won't back the option of a public vote.
No, they don't say that. No, the words don't say that.
Well, if we can't get agreement along the lines of our alternative plan or a general election, only then will Labour back a public vote. No. So it's not in all circumstances.
Hold on. We don't say whether or not in the manifesto there would be a referendum on any deal other than the government's, that would need to be decided at the time. What Keir was saying this morning is that he believes that the great majority of Labour MPs would want a referendum in those circumstances. However, if Theresa May's deal proceeds, and let's be clear, that is the only deal on the table.
No, but hang on.
There's no other deal on the table.
I'm sorry, Andrew. You're not being honest. In your leaflet, it says if we can't get changes to their bad deal or a general election, changes to the deal. That's why the talks are continuing. Then Labour would back the option of a public vote. It's not guaranteed.
But you're making my point that the only deal on the table at the moment is Theresa May's deal. That deal, we support a referendum with an option to remain. If there were to be some alternative deal, obviously we'd have to take a view at the time. And what Keir Starmer and Tom Watson have been saying
so it's not
is that he thinks the great majority of
but it's not guaranteed.
would support
Let's have a look at your Twitter page where you say the choice is between Nigel Farage and Brexit or People's Vote and Labour. But that is disingenuous. That is not what Labour is saying, as has been demonstrated by the manifesto and the leaflet. If Labour get changes to the deal, then Brexit will happen along Labour lines. There'll be no second referendum.
The only deal on the table at the moment is Theresa May's deal. It's been voted down by the House of Commons 3 times, and Labour has voted now not only against Theresa May's deal 3 times, but for a referendum
so why is it
twice.
not emblazoned across the front of your manifesto and the front of your leaflet? Second referendum under Labour.
Well, I wish it was, because that is our policy, is that on Theresa May's deal, we support a referendum. Instead, we have Jeremy's picture, and that's great, because Jeremy is the leader of our party. So instead, we've got Jeremy emblazoned. But that's fantastic. But on the actual policy matter that, affects us at the moment...
You say he's fantastic, but you tweeted earlier this year the only thing that could lead the independent group to become a viable party is Jeremy Corbyn literally forcing the sensible left out of the Labour Party by continuing to condone Brexit and anti-Semitism. The trouble is, he's doing a very good job of this.
No, Jeremy's not doing that.
Right, you've changed your mind. You've changed your mind since February.
No. What Jeremy has done has led us 3 times to vote against Theresa May's deal and twice to back a referendum. On the 1st of April, the last time the House of Commons voted on a referendum...
What's changed since February from your tweet?
Oh, the way that Jeremy's led the party. In the 1st of April, he led more than 200 Labour MPs to vote for a referendum on any Brexit deal with an option to remain. So the only way we're going to get Remain and a referendum is by supporting Labour in these elections.
Really, if you were a Remain supporter and you really wanted a second referendum, why wouldn't you support Change UK?
Because the Liberal Democrats? Because they've got tiny support in the House of Commons and the country. If you actually want to bring about change, then you have to support Labour in this election.
This is just painful. I mean,